Alright guys, we're back with another Discord League game for you guys. This time we've got the round of 32 in the last chance qualifier for the May Invitational. We've got Nyx on Dragon versus Jeremy on Crane. Jeremy also going by the name DojiMizumi. While the players are getting set up, we'll just take a quick look at the lists. Nyx is on a Dragon Crab list. This is very similar to the Mind's Desire standard list from a month or two ago. So it's missing some of the more recent meta changes, which are the 3x Finger of Jade and the 1x or 3x Cloud the Mind. Nyx is favoring instead the 2x Censure and 1x Assassinate. Otherwise, the list looks very similar to what you'd expect to see. I think it might even be identical on the Dynasty side. Jeremy is on your pretty much standard Crane Dragon list. He has decided to go with the 2x Assassination, 2x Admit Defeat, 1x Noble Sacrifice, and the standard neutral attachments. He's not running the Young Harrier. Young Harrier is just a 1/1 for 1 with an ability that rarely sees play outside of the mirror. It does give you the ability to drop a character in after all conflicts are completed for 1 glory. Both of the characters that he is playing in the conflict deck have a 0 glory, so they're not able to pull that off. So players are now moving into mulligans. We see Mizumi doing 2 cards out of Dynasty and 1 out of Conflict. Nyx got a good Dynasty flop and 3 cards out of Conflict deck. So Jeremy got a good deck, a good start. Cautious Scout, very important to be able to be aggressive into Dragon with their dangerous Province row. Doji Whisper is just a good efficient 1-drop. He has decided to go with no Fate on the Whisperer. I suspect he'll put 1 or 2 Fate on the Scout, even though there's an Assassination in Nyx's deck. It's just so important for canceling the Dragon Province effects. We do see that Nyx is second player this game for the first round. That extra Fate is very valuable. We see a 5/5 bid. Nothing too surprising there. I think we'll see Jeremy poke with the Cautious Scout. Both players with Imperial Palace. It'll be very important to see if one of the players can break it. Right, Tsugu very dangerous. His ability can just straight up kill the Whisperer or take that Fate off of the Cautious Scout. If I was Jeremy, I might have faded up my Scout a little bit more because I think Nyx is going to try to make it leave this turn. Interesting that Nyx didn't play the Doomed Shigenja. Definitely signifies that he doesn't have Cloud the Mind. Although, no, it just definitely does. If he could have clouded the Scout, it would have been a good play, even though there are let goes. So we see immediately Jeremy rewarded for flipping his Cautious Scout round 1. He's dodged the Restoration of Balance. Now the only way for that to be a relevant card would be for Yuruma to come out and flip it back face down. Now it's just a squishy Province. We do see Raitsugu duel off the Fate from the Cautious Scout. If I had some way to buffer actions, I would probably wait a little bit to make sure that just to make sure that there isn't a conflict character coming down like a Steward of Law. If you can cause your opponent to spend a little bit of extra Fate in playing their conflict characters than they otherwise might want to, I think you're in a favorable position. So I think that what we'll see here is a Hiruma Skirmisher come down to straighten Raitsugu. Otherwise, I can't see why Nyx would try to get through this turn with just 1 character. That play would be countered by a Miyamoto's Fury, but there's only 2 of them. Yeah, I mean, a Tattooed Wanderer does a similar thing. It just doesn't have the covert for the Whisper, so it's a little vulnerable to for shames. So yeah, we're gonna want to see if Nyx has a for shame, a Pathfinder, or Nyx has a if Nyx has a Pathfinder's Blade for this public form, and if Mizumi or Jeremy has the Fury or a for shame combo. So we do know on Nyx's side that the Restoration of Balance isn't under the Imperial Palace, which is good for Nyx. It does mean it's more likely that it's something like Feast or Famine or Shameful Display, which are the two things he would want under it. Definitely Shameful is the best thing to have under Imperial Palace against Crane. It's a little bit more likely since we know Resto isn't under it. So while I was talking, we did see the Fury on the Wanderer, so Raitsugu does stay bowed. That's not great for Nyx. At the same time, he's built a much better board for next turn. And with the Void Ring already claimed, it's going to stay a great ring, or great board. So we're going to see Political Water here to stand the Cautious Scout. If he does win, um, he will win favor, which is important to both to deny Sumiko and to turn on Yoshi. Yeah, this isn't surprising. With 6 conflict characters and the types of mulligans that Crane generally like to do, having a steward this turn is not that shocking. So Crane's gonna come up 1 break to 0 if there isn't another Fury on turn 1. At the same time, losing your Pokeball province against Dragon when your Cautious Scout is leaving play, it's not great. We see a second fan come down, so only 1 more fan. We see the second Let Go come out, so only 1 more fan. I think the fan is the preferable target in this matchup as opposed to the sword, just because there's a ton of policy debates between the two decks. And there are no higher impact targets for the Let Goes out of Nyx, so it's an obvious card trade. Alright, so in order to nullify that Raitsugu has still got 2 Fate left on him. Jeremy's going to have to heavily fate his characters going into this next round. When he's already behind on the board, he might be looking to do that anyway, just to try to build up a board state. But after 1 round, we see no breaks, pretty much no honor exchanged. And a very expensive flop for Jeremy when he's already behind on board. And decent flop for Nyx with what he already has out. Just go wide, poke in, get 2 breaks this turn, very possible. Yoshi with favor, obviously great. This is a scenario where you might want to have more Cloud the Minds in your deck as Nyx. That being said, I think it will be hard for Jeremy to keep the favor this turn, or rather to win it again after he activates his ability. Nyx should be ready for the Way of the Crane now that we're 15 cards into Jeremy's deck. Yeah, we see it right away. So let's see if there's any censures. No censures, but 3 3 Voice of Honor in the Crane deck. So that is online now. At the same time, there are fewer high impact events in the Dragon deck than in most other competitive decks. So maybe not something that Nyx is worried about so much as the stats that represents. Yoshi is now a 5/9, very good policy debate, very good political defender or attacker. So this attack very vulnerable to policy debate, very vulnerable to for shame. Obviously the second Miyamoto's Fury in Crane's deck would be strong. So usually Crane players aren't on public forum, uh, but the fact that he is probably means that something like, well, he is running, very interesting. I didn't notice that Jeremey is running Earth Water instead of Fire, so there's no meditations. It's going to be hard for him to gain tempo advantage in that case. Yeah, Nick's losing his only Cloud the Mind. The rest of his hand is Court Games Finger, Let Go, Ornate Fan, Pathfinder's Blade, Policy Debate, Reprieve, Tattooed Wanderer. Yeah, so with the solo defense, he could try to Court Games Yoshi back to normal. Or this is a military attack, so yeah, I guess he couldn't do that. Players trading bonsais. Yeah, Nick's playing out that Finger of Jade, likely to protect his Raitsugu from for shames. We do see the second policy debate come out from Jeremey, so no new information for him, but there's one of these cards that he wants to get rid of. The only one relevant to this military conflict is the Tattooed Wanderer and the Pathfinder's Blade. Interesting that the Tattooed Wanderer didn't come down on Raitsugu to covert Yoshi. Maybe he wanted to get him to defend here. But I think with the threat of policy debate, you really don't want to let Yoshi defend here. You want to let him come in and break a province, probably, and try to go for 2 breaks this round. After all these policy debates, he might end up with 0 breaks. I mean, it is a little expensive to play Tattooed Wanderers as attachments into a 3 Let Go deck, but now that your Cloud the Mind is gone, your opponent's going to be much more willing to play them on whatever he sees. I really do think that 1x Cloud the Mind is very light in the current meta. I think there's a lot of characters that can punish you if you don't run Cloud the Mind. So we see Fine Katana played and the third Let Go used. Again, very few targets of high impact for Let Go. So the fact that Jeremey knew that Let Go was there, he had to have expected the trade to go down like this. Yeah, but there was no other play. He just wanted to trade the Let Go. Or he forgot about it after seeing it twice. So Nyx gets the win, but not the break. Yeah, I would have wanted to force my opponent to show me a Let Go. Try to covert past Yoshi just to pretty much guarantee a break there. Yeah, this is a pretty easy water military to either bow out Nyx's board or stand Yoshi. Tattooed Wanderer will defend this, since Yoshi was used. If it's played, but then Jeremy just has to show an assassination or a for shame. He hasn't played any of those, so very, very likely. Well, he's not doing that. He's going to do a second bonsai. This does get him the break with one card if there's no counterplay, which we know there isn't. So yeah, perfectly solid play. Discarding an E10 Adept. Definitely a good card to discard when you've already played half your attachments. Well, with this water ring claimed, I think that Jeremy's going to get the favor back. At the same time, without a poking target, he's going to have to risk either Feast or Famine or Shameful Display with every future attack until he finds the fertile or the Manicured Gardens in Nyx's row. Let's just double check that's what's there. Yeah, Manicured Garden and Rally Under the Box is what I would expect in this matchup. So Nyx is already losing the favor. He could pick up a Fate here. Go Fire Ring. So he shouldn't play his court games into this conflict because he's just sitting on Shameful Display. Yep, so he does take the Fate off Fire Ring and go into Shameful Display. Jeremy forgetting to trigger it. That one honor is not likely to be that relevant, but that was the second conflict, so there was not going to be another conflict coming down from Nyx. Nyx could drop a Skirmisher here to tie up the favor with Yoshi there. Might be worth it if he has it, but he doesn't. Well, his hand was revealed and we knew he didn't have it, I suppose. But it could have been drawn off the Earth Ring after the policy debates. So board's much more even after round 2. That was a very good turn for Jeremy. He's just down a lot of Fate. Yokuni, good here to copy Raitsugu. A double duel could kill any character with one or less Fate. So Jeremy going with the high build, Hotaru Yoshi. He didn't really have any other option here. Nyx going for Yokuni. If I was him, I definitely would have wanted to play the Investigator. But Yokuni has a lot more stats, and copying Hotaru is highly relevant. So this play is fine. But I would like to see the Investigator just to start dealing with your opponent's options. Investigator's a fantastic card in this matchup. You can pick the key pieces out of Crane's hand before they play them. They are going to want to use their political attack each round, so you kind of need to make that a little less appealing for them. There is also no unfaded character on Nyx's side, so Feast or Famine is off. He does have 4 more conflict characters in his deck. He's likely to have one more of them, but if he was unlucky, he won't. And that could have been a major blunder with 7 Fate held behind and a Mendicant. Steady hits Shameful Display, definitely the best province to be hit on defense. Yokuni is going to go up to an 8-8, we know, and Hotaru is going to go down to a 3-6, and perhaps more importantly, Voice of Honor is going to be turned right off by this. Court games from Jeremey right now could turn it back on, but if he doesn't do that, I think we're going to see Nyx's court games here to dishonor Hotaru. Interestingly, Jeremy uses court games to dishonor Yokuni. That does turn Voice of Honor back on, so I guess that's an acceptable play. Fan coming down, so defender winning. Wave the Crane, third Way of the Crane, very, very favorable draw, man. Three Way of the Crane and court games. When you see both Yoshi and Hotaru in the top 10 cards when you have favor, that's a pretty favorable draw, but if you've got it, use it, right? Okay, so Four Shame's not on here because Hotaru is not a courtier. Um, we do see double let go on fans come out from Jeremy, and we see a masterpiece come down from Nyx. Masterpiece pretty darn good here. If you don't really want to go for the air ring, you can actually get fate from your attack using it. We see the Pathfinder's Blade come down, not directly contributing to this conflict, but Yokuni's going to want one eventually, and allows you to use a Stronghold for the pump. So I think, yeah, Jeremy's gassed at this point. Just the one more fan left in his deck as far as pumps for this conflict. He could have had a Stewie for Shame combo, but didn't have it. So Yokuni going ahead and making sure he uses the best ability on board in the conflict he's participating in. Yeah, I mean Jeremy had pretty much all the cards he could have wanted for that, but Dragon just has more pumps in the deck. We're not going to see him go back to Shameful Display anytime soon, that's for sure. Yeah. So easy water fire attack, or water military attack here into public forum to stand Yokuni. If I had this play, I might not trigger Yokuni, although this play is also not particularly resilient to Miyamoto's Fury or Stewie Forshame. But it works. Yeah, just getting the money from air. Interesting that he didn't stand Yokuni. Either, yeah, using the masterpiece to be able to just get one of those fate anyway, and doing either fire, earth, or water seems fine there. I don't like doing air. Man, this also leaves the water open for Crane, so... Raitsugu's only on 6, so maybe he's 6 military, that is. All the more reason to stand Yokuni, right? Maybe he wanted the honor to be able to duel dual Yoshi's fade off, but yeah, I like definitely like not dueling Hotaru if you're gonna try to poke in with a skirmisher afterwards, so that you can either kill Yoshi outright or at least duel him with a bigger character. Despite all those attachments, Raitsugu can still be boxed by Crane, uh, bowed by the stronghold in a political conflict because its skill is 2 or less. Yeah, so it is feast or famine under the palace, so it doesn't really let you get value off of the palace, but once it breaks, you can bite back. Um, Let me see. So Nyx is trying to figure out how to clear Crane's board this round. It's a little bit hard because Yokuni only has 6 skill. Right now he is breaking just on his own. Um, so with this break, Hotaru will leave play this turn. And Yoshi will stick around another day. This is going to generate a lot of hand advantage for Jeremey, though. 3 off Yoshi, and 1 off the air ring. Yeah, see, the other bad thing about having Palace on Feast or Famine is it makes it a much higher province strength. Feast or Famine is really supposed to fall over to a stiff wind so that you can get that effect to trigger by surprise. So, Jeremey has to bow his own character here. Um, he could Miyamoto's Fury it, or he could, can't Force Shame it. Force Shame, I believe, has to target an opponent's character. So it's only 1 out, I think. Yeah, Jeremey just trying to figure out if he's got anything he can do to avoid it. Oh, he had his 1 out. Bingo bango. Yeah, I would be in a noob, but that's okay. Yeah, really shouldn't be talking about them, about anything of substance. I have answers to what they're saying, but I can't really say them while the game's in progress. Ooh, Jeremy discarding voice at random. Not good. But yeah, I mean, if Nyx is worried about his Feast or Famine getting turned off by one assassination, he could have just played his Mendicant and still been on 7 Fate. I think that's way stronger. Um, and Jeremy can't afford to play 2 assassinations, so really it's a weakness of his own creation to that round. Okay, yeah, playing Sumiko with 4. Still just not playing Investigator against Crane, which I just think is literally just wrong. Especially with the Jade Masterpiece in play. Um, Asami coming out for Crane. Nyx's first player. He could just, I think, I think he could just dishonor Crane here if Crane. Well, I think Crane is forced to not bid 5, right? And since Crane is forced to not bid 5 into this kind of board, I think that Nyx should just bid 5 to get more cards and go and try to get some breaks. His board is pretty strong. He's probably found another reprieve after this turn. Going down to 0 Fate is interesting. Playing an Investigator with 3. I guess he does have a long road ahead of him to win. But I am glad that he finally decided to play the Investigator. Yeah, see, Nyx knows he's got to bid 1. Um, or Jeremy knowing he can't bid 5, Nyx bidding 1. So yeah, Nyx trying to catch Jeremy bidding 5, but it doesn't happen. With 200 characters, dishonoring from 4 is not likely to happen. So Sumiko not bowing um, as a result of conflict resolution while attacking because Nyx has the favor. That's not an ability that spends the favor, so it can be used twice per round. In this specific situation, he's very vulnerable to for shame because none of them have been played by Crane, and he is 29 cards into his deck. So Sumiko is likely to be bowed if a Finger of Jade doesn't come out, and possibly even if it does. Um, 2 Stewards of Law have already been used. None of the political rivals have. So plenty of activators for the 3 of For Shame. Yoshi can't really block here because Yoshi can still copyright Sugu. Yeah, so just no defense. Pathfinder's Blade will cancel Public Forum, and I think we'll see a pretty easy break. I would still expect something to come out of hand to potentially. It would have to be the last Steward of Law, so maybe not. To try to bow Sumiko. If Sumiko doesn't bow, we're looking at a definitely a 2-break turn. The sequencing here is kind of awkward. I don't know if I would have pre-copied Raitsugu, but it does put you in a pretty decent position if you decide to. I guess then the for shame can come down on Yokuni, but then he still has a skill advantage on Yoshi. I just don't think you should really be thinking too much about dishonoring out your opponent here. You should just start smashing. Jeremy taking a long time to think about his defense. It's pretty reasonable. He's got a hand of 11 cards. It has a lot of options. I saw a card get played by Jeremy. Nyx is thinking about it, so it must be for shame. Yeah, bowing Yokuni is fine, but Nyx deciding to copy the draw 3 of Yoshi. It's gonna make breaking a little harder, I would think. Maybe he doesn't have buffs, but he should. Wow, he could potentially have just had a very awkward draw. So we went from 0 for shames used to 2 for shames used very quickly. Sumiko cares a lot less about being dishonored than a lot of dragon characters, which is actually an upside in the current meta. A 3/3 that can be used 3 times is good. But yeah, we do see the third for shame. Not terribly unlikely, 29 cards in. I do think to a certain extent, Nyx walked into that when he didn't have to. So by process of elimination, this is very likely to be Manicured Gardens, and it is. Um, Going from 1 to 2 fate is pretty strong for Nyx. A lot of his cards cost 1 fate. But it's obviously a better play for him. Compared to Feast or Famine or Shameful Display. This is pretty hard to defend for Nyx, but I'm not sure he needs to. The double fire is pretty brutal, gonna dishonor the Yokuni and probably honor Sami. I guess yeah. So using Reitsugu to duel off the fate from Hotaru is a way of getting something out of this conflict. Doesn't have a skill advantage until he plays that katana, so he is playing attachments that don't contribute to the skill in order to pull off this play. I'm guessing he has a reprieve for Raitsugu, which he'll have the Fate for after Manicured Gardens. As a consequence of Jeremy's tempo plays of discarding stat buffs with his let goes, the two other reprieves in Nyx's deck don't have as much of an answer. Yeah, so Raitsugu now can bully dual Hotaru without letting up on much pressure. Jeremy does have 5 Fate held back to Nyx's 0, so the board will be much stronger for Nyx after this round, but if a favorable flop comes up, Jeremy can refresh his board pretty dramatically. Dishonoring the standing investigator over dishonoring the 4 Fate Yokuni is an interesting choice. The investigator is still out of ornate or out of box range with the ornate fan attached, but it makes winning a conflict against the Sami pretty undoable, untenable. So this is a risky attack if he plans on trying to poke Feast or Famine. Nyx is not on Bonsai though, which makes it a little bit less risky. Going to Shameful Display is kind of even more silly. Suppose technically he's still winning, and he does have the third Bonsai. mean, if he breaks shameful here, it's not silly at all, obviously. This is a potential downside to the commitment of military cards in a political conflict that Nick's made earlier this round. So he's really looking for 2 cards to break or to prevent the break, trying to policy debate, but canceled by voice of honor. That's 2 voices gone. Revealing admit defeat, assassination, court games, rival, rival. So assassination, admit defeat. Admit defeat, a card he could still play here, so the breaks are discarding political rival. So that was a long-term play, so the break is probably coming. Or another policy debate. Yeah, that's the latter. It's another policy debate. Jeremy doesn't have the honor to upbid here. Okay, Jeremy going to 1 honor in order to tie the policy debate. So getting the break in exchange for going to 1 honor when he has a very anemic board going into rally to the cause into a very big board with his hand revealed. They're gonna trade 1 bids, so there's gonna be 1 or 2 unknown cards if he reveals a Imperial Storehouse. Nick's playing Daimyo's favor on Retsugu. I think he's going to use it to put Reprieve out, so that if, yeah, why not? Protecting himself against the final let go, saving the fate for, if that last card in his hand is the last Reprieve, that could make a lot of sense, that play. Holy shit, Noble Sacrifice coming out on Sumiko, that's a big deal. Jeremy on 1 Noble Sacrifice, so at least that's accounted for. Yeah, the Noble Sacrifice off of the Earth Ring, that's just nasty. That removes a lot of stats. Jeremy's gonna have at least 1 rival for this turn, and rally under the box. So Nyx probably shouldn't try to break it on the first attack. Although, no, he hasn't broken anything. Yeah, this is looking really dire for Dragon a double covert attack is actually pretty dangerous right now. So if there are two political rivals, one was discarded, but he is running 3 and fairly low in his deck. Yeah, we see Jeremey bid 1, Nick's bidding 5, just trying to be a little bit more defensive. Jeremey trying to get his honor back up. We do see the first political rival come out. I just think doesn't look like there's going to be a second one. Yeah, the Brass Samurai coming in to poke, which makes sense, but don't know why I played the rival at this time in that case. Actually I do. He played it out to avoid the Kitsuki Investigator after the Rally to the Cause flip, if Nyx decides to go that route. So this is the military declaration for the round. Raitsugu is a 2 political character still. He's essentially been invited to duel that Brash Samurai to death for free, but that does take the Raitsugu out of contention for the real attack coming later, which is the political attack. With all those attachments on Raitsugu, obviously, he could use the box to bring him his own box to bring him out of Crane Box's range. Of course, using the Investigator potentially removes 5 skill from the political conflict later in the round. And also frees up the covert for Yokuni. So the draw for turn was let go. Jeremey assassinating the initiate with the honor he got off of the 5-1 bid trade. Seems fine. Brash honors itself, so bringing the conflict to 3-5. Dishonoring the Kitsuki Investigator with one of his 2 court games with max 1 per conflict, so does not do that much to spend it here, since if the game is going to end in Jeremy's favor, it's going to end soon. Nick's using his box on this conflict is going to make the political attack coming later quite a bit harder to hold. I don't know that I truly understand the infatuation with defending the air ring, but I guess he's identified dishonor as his preferred win strategy. It would take him a while to do a break, but he has had a stronger board all game. The only bow is the savvy politician. The fire ring is worth 2 points of stats in the next attack. The hand is known to be court games and let go. So Earth Ring is less appealing. Void Ring doesn't do anything to protect you, but Two Fate might. There are no more fans out of... there are basically no more political buffs except for potentially court games in Nyx's deck. So he does attack with the Void Ring to get the 2 Fate, and also to play for the longer game, maybe removing Asami this turn. I think, yeah, Jeremey doesn't defend. The political rival, which Jeremey may be counting on, can be bowed to Fury still. So that's something he has to keep in mind. Jeremey has a court games to honor Asami, though, which does bring him up to 0. A court games from Nyx would bring Raitsugu out of breaking range. So the fact that this attack is taking place makes me think that Nyx has exactly court games and Fury and 5 other cards. Okay, yeah, copying Investigator to remove the court games, that makes a lot more sense. That means he doesn't need to have his own court games. Although, yeah, the Covert coming out on the right Sugu, so... yeah, Crane's gonna be on 5 skill, though. After the Fury. Voice of Honor's off. Yep. So that was a very good hold by Nyx, I think. I don't know if it's worth playing the Reprieve here into the Let Go. It would, when you have 2 hand reveal effects next round, I think you could have gotten the Let Go to stick on something else later in this game. Yeah, with this board it certainly makes sense for Nyx to 1-bid. Guest of Honor Covert at your Stronghold could be hard to deal with, though. The rest of that, Kazin, not a huge deal. Cautious Scout, not a huge deal. Seeing your own Swordsmith finally is kind of like a punch in the gut when there's only 8 cards left in your deck, but if we're going to 1-bit, it's good. Nitan Adept, great card. Most of the attachments have been used already. Doom Shigenja. Yeah, probably gonna play that Swordsmith also. Still think it's worth it if you're gonna be 1-bitting. Um, yep, Nyx agrees. 2 Fate, strong choice. Assassination would basically kill Jeremey, so not gonna see it. Jeremey going down to 3 honor, bidding 3 to Nyx's 1. So we're gonna see a fire attack here. Just neuter Crane's board. Interesting to note here that the turn 1 double palace flip, both palaces have stayed in play all game. Given what Jeremey has left in his deck, this attack is extremely hard to deal with and will reveal his 3-card hand. You can shut down the attack, most likely, but at the expense of his entire offensive potential for the round. Probably not worth protecting public forum, but Fire Ring is pretty much always bad for Crane to have it go off against you. Just crossing the 1 hour mark in this game. Yeah, Jeremy thinking about what he could do here. He's out of Fury. He has an unplayable assassination in his deck. Currently, his remaining Voice of Honor would be a dead card as well. I think he has no more Bonsai, 2 more Swords, 1 more Policy Debate, but not really any honor to flex a aggressive bid. 1 more Political Rival, which he doesn't have the fate to play. Yep, Investigator reveals the other admit defeat and 2 katanas. Nyx has used 2 of his 3 let goes, or all 3 of his let goes, so yeah, discarding a katana is fine. He can double defend with no assassination revealed without really making his turn too much less efficient. Nyx has 2 more court games in his deck. We see 1 of them. This completely protects him from Policy Debate, which is not in the hand, but is in the deck. Yeah, Nyx is gonna win this attack. Dishonoring Kazin. With Admit Defeat in hand, Kazin could be slightly annoying. Not like really annoying, but slightly. With Admit Defeat, Katana in hand, his duel could potentially be relevant with some of your preferred defenses. The Daisho on the Adept means that Jeremey has to pre-play his Katana if he wants to attack, but that also puts him face up. Military 3 skill attack at the stronghold with Admit Defeat in hand. So Nyx defending with the Adept. Jeremey trying to figure out the trick. The trick is a censure. So that's it for this conflict. Kazen's going to return home here. But Kazen is a 0 skill for the political attack, so he has 3 skill for Nyx's military attack. Yeah, attacking Doom Shigenja Swordsmith at Air Ring into Public Forum is 4 skill to Jeremy's 4 skill. I think that's fine. Just Chuggy will lose to double block with no card play, obviously. He could just use cards. Daisho putting him at 5. I still like attacking with the Swordsmith also here so that you get the break, but I guess you don't need the break. He's gonna draw an extra card with Yokuni here. Gets Finger of Jade, that's fine. Okay, we see an E10 Master. There's a known Daisho in hand at the very least um, from the Doom Shigenja that left play. Um, Jeremy content with this board. Nyx. Also content with that. 1-1 as expected. Still representing two reveal and discard effects, so Storehouse going up to 2 cards. These cards are like not particularly useful. There's the last Stewie, but there's no Four Shames. The last political rival is probably the card in his deck that is the best. Definitely the card that Nyx has to respect the most. So no swords, no bonsai, 1 Stewie. Is there a 1x charge in there? No charge in the Crane deck. We are still waiting on that last policy debate. I think the Daisho is just gonna come down. Well, no, it won't. Maybe the finger. No, he's only got 1 fate. Giving up the watering. Bowing the investigator. Fine Katana, reading the Ni-10 Master. Pretty good. I think we'll see the air ring claimed here. Then um, then Crane has to resolve fire to not die. Going for the Earth Ring here, for some reason. Resolving the Earth Ring, or discarding the last policy debate. Playing the daisho we knew was out there. Respecting the second political rival. Since Yokuni can't be coverted, this attack is less interesting than it otherwise would be. Also, Ni-10 Adept can just bow whatever it wants. So it is the obvious covert target, even though it doesn't contribute skill because of the crane box. Jeremy, I think, trying to figure out what he can get done. Obviously, he can't take an unopposed air. He can't take an unopposed any void or fire either. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that he's lost. So yeah, Jeremy just trying to figure out what to do. Attacks with the Guest of Honor, 4 skill, 1 card in hand. He could go up to 7 skill if it is a political rival, so that would break if there's no defense. So there's no reason not to defend. Defending with Yokuni here. Nope. Yep, defending with Adept is only Adept is can't lose the game to this, but you can lose a ring. Again, Third Fury still in the deck, only 2 cards undrawn, so the Rival or the Steward of Law actually won't accomplish anything. So Nyx will be first player next round, so you can use the Yokuni copy to get rid of that card on the copy of the Kensuke Investigator. I like going Void here at this point. You take the air ring first conflict next round. Um, Because now you can't fade up the air ring. You gotta fade up the void ring. So if it were to be the rival here, you could just play it now, basically wasting that copy. But so it's not the rival. If it's not the rival, you're not afraid. Yeah, whatever. Void here also accomplishes the -1 honor at the end of the round because the Kazin leaves play. And then you go in first on air next round. Um, yeah, having the oh, that's silly. That's just game anyway. There were so many ways to win. Um, Air, a fire, dishonor effect, or void all lead to victory. So that's GG. A long and interesting game, ultimately going in Knicks' favor. I think interesting play from both players. Had that one sort of silly comment mid-game by me about the conflict at Feast or Famine and regarding assassination. Otherwise, I think pretty interesting discussions were had. And this is, I think, the first LCQ round of 32 game to be played. So Knicks is our first top 16 LCQ player. So Dragon is the first to the top 16 in the LCQ. His next opponent could be any one of Heinzel, Sly Knight, Sisanti, or Maverick Martel. I think he'd most like to see Lion in the next match. Wouldn't mind a Crane opponent again. I think that Sisanti and Heinzel would be the more difficult opponents. But that is 3 games away from knowing who his opponent will be. So thanks to Nix and Jeremy for being so prompt with their games and giving us a great game to watch. And that'll be it for this stream. Thanks everyone for watching. And I'll catch you guys in future LCQ and Cup games.